What is your best defense against despair?
Dry martini with a lemon twist. I'm not on the kind of dopamine kick that everybody's on. So if you remember how life felt in like 1987, that's where I am at. I've always felt there wasn't enough time. I would like to accept time and also love it. I would like to love being a wise old woman like in a fairy story.
I'm Rachel Martin, and this is Wildcard, the game where cards control the conversation. Each week, my guest chooses questions at random from a deck of cards. Pick a card 1 through 3. Questions about the memories, insights, and beliefs that have shaped them. My guest this week is the writer Zadie Smith. What were you doing when you were 19? Zadie Smith was a college student back then, writing what would become a best-selling novel. And in the year 2000, when Zadie was 24, the book called White Teeth was released into the world. It was an instant sensation, but it came with a lot of pressure too. She was able to put all of that aside and just keep writing. There was On Beauty and Swing Time. Her most recent novel is called The Fraud, but it's White Teeth that's back in the spotlight. There's a new edition out, marking 25 years since it was first published. Zadie Smith, welcome to Wildcard.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, 1, 2, or 3?
1.
What do you admire about your teenage self?
Not very much, to be honest. I felt like I was an awkward kid, that I didn't really have any natural home. So I really kind of retreated a little bit, I would say, into a world of fantasy, more or less. Yeah, books and movies and, anything else but reality.
You were a teenager when you started writing White Teeth. So you had some talent. You had some things going on.
I was really curious about the world. I just felt myself at a remove from it. That's the best way I can put it. I just thought there's this amazing world full of beautiful people doing all these kind of things, and it was my job to observe them. I think that's probably quite common in a lot of writers. Like you have this great love for the world, but it's hard to fully participate for one reason or another.
Right. Okay. Let's go to the next one. 3 more cards. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
What have you learned to appreciate about your hometown over time?
My hometown, I really be talking about my home corner, which is northwest London. There's a lot of London I don't know very well. I'm quite ignorant of, but my corner is very beautiful to me. I live on the same street I was born on, which is crazy.
And that we should just say that was intentional because you've lived many other places since.
Yeah.
Wow.
I freely chose to return to Willesden. The thing about my neighborhood, I always say that, if the characters in White Teeth seem, to be, relatively cheery, it's because there are things that they can count on. Pretty decent schools, free healthcare, and housing they can afford. That is what laid the foundation for the relative cheeriness of my neighborhood. I'm sometimes aware, like particularly with White Teeth, that there's a kind of historical misremembering. They think that White Teeth is the expression of a kind of Blairite multicultural paradise. But Blair and everybody who came after him...
Tony Blair, former Prime Minister, yep.
Yeah. Blair and everyone who came after him took my neighborhood apart. They ended that world, So when I'm in my neighborhood now, I feel the affection for what it was, a real sadness for some of the changes and what it's become. But I guess the kind of like burning principle of my life is that those conditions that I grew up in are not a fairy tale. Like they are possible. And it is possible that they could return.
Is it still the multicultural, socioeconomically diverse place that it was when you were growing up?
No. There are corners of it. The poor have got unimaginably poorer. There's an enormous new population of rich people, a great amount of gentrification. It's the same story you can get in Brooklyn or, all over America, I'm sure. But it feels extreme if you've sat and watched it happen over, a 30-year period. So no, it's not that place. And certainly for the young people growing up there, in no way is it that place. They have no expectations of the things that I expected and thought of as my right. And it's not to say, by the way, that the world of White Teeth is some kind of perfect paradise. Obviously, when you read the book, there are struggles, there are racial struggles, class struggles, but there is the possibility of equity. and the suggestion of it. And now those things really don't exist in my neighborhood or in England generally.
It was clearly important to you, though, to raise your kids there. I mean, that was part of your decision to go back.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the main reasons. I was looking for what I would define as a normal school, and I found that really hard to find in America, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. 1, 2, or 3?
Have we done 2? Let's do 2.
Let's do 2. Why not? What period of your life do you often daydream about?
Gosh. I really had a wonderful time in New York in my early 30s. It was a wonderful period in my life, and I daydream about that a lot, particularly spring in New York. It's such a joy.
This is when you were teaching at NYU, right?
That's not the part.
That's not the part that you daydream about.
To be fair, it was more the evening activities. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Like, I just met so many interesting people. It was extraordinary to me to be here. I love that. And I do, despite all the kind of dramas of my adolescence, I do think about that period a lot, because it's my feeling about teenagers that they are the purest of people. I know they're ridiculous a lot of the time, and I was for sure ridiculous, but they're like philosophers. Like, they're experiencing things for the first time. Both their politics and their existential lives are taken so personally. So to me, that's when my life seemed most real or something. It stays with you with clarity, both the sadnesses of it and the pains of it, but they were so acute. So I think I return to that period a lot. I guess I write about it a lot too.
No, it makes sense. I mean, you're trying to figure yourself out, and everything is just heightened, and you have a lot of new ideas.
Everything is heightened. It's so extreme. And I was never bored. The world seemed, so much to me and so present. Yeah.
Are you bored now?
It's different. I still think I'm not easily bored, because I can get a lot out of just observing the world. So, and I'm understimulated, right? I'm not on the kind of dopamine kick that everybody's on. So if you remember how life felt in like 1987, that's where I am at. It's a slower place. And so you're more in things, Blossom, you can get me crying at Blossom, or just a kid's face in the street, or hearing two people argue in the subway, or, that's my stimulation, and that's everywhere and continual.
Yeah. This message comes from Squarespace. Start a fully custom on-brand website with Squarespace's latest AI-enhanced website builder, Blueprint AI. After a few questions, their interactive design system transforms basic information about your brand or business into an elevated online presence with curated premium quality content automatically added and matched to your profile and aesthetic. Head to squarespace.com/wildcard for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. We're going to pull back and talk about white teeth.
Yeah.
How are you feeling 25 years on?
I mean, it's very aging, this anniversary. That's what I have to say about it.
I mean, would you rather just let's just move on? I wrote that thing when I was 19,
no,
20, 21.
It's fine. You know what's actually really hard, if I'm just being real with you, is that, I'm going to be 50 this year. I'm menopausal. And it's hard to, I think what comes with these feelings is a lot of silence. If you had me here in the chair at 27, I'd be talking 12 to the dozen. But I find myself much more quiet inside. So it's sometimes hard, to kind of answer to that 21-year-old girl who wrote that busy book, because I love her and God bless her, but, she's just not me.
Yeah. You haven't, do you have occasion to go back and open it? I mean, do you ever?
I mean, for the anniversary, I was meant to do that. And I did. I opened it. I took a look at one page and I was like, not today, Satan. That was kind of my reaction to that experience. So, the thing I love about it is that teenagers love it. Teenagers pick it up and read it. And to me, that's exactly where it should be. That is a book for young people. And all the books for young people that exist, from Catcher to, I don't know, something like Sula, Toni Morris. I love those books. I love books that are for young people and that young people respond to strongly. So I'm really delighted if White Teeth has any place in that canon of books you pick up at 15 and 16 and get excited about literature. That nothing could make me happier than that thought.
But you say it's for the young, and I hear that. But at the same time, when it came out, it's not fair to put your words to so many years later, but you said in a New Yorker interview, I really don't think anyone should write a first novel at my age. You said this when you were like 24.
I was in shock because I didn't know about this machine that goes around novel writing. I was really naive. I just didn't understand what I was getting into. So it was kind of hard to suddenly have to be, a public person of any kind or someone who was meant to know things about things. I didn't feel like I knew anything about anything. So it was like a kind of catch up. I had to play catch up with this idea of what a writer is. Yeah.
You say you didn't know anything about anything, but like when you were 19, 20, 21, how did you know what it was like to walk around the world as a middle-aged Bangladeshi man cheating on his wife and splitting up his twin? Like, you knew so much intrinsically about other people.
I thought everybody thought that way about other people. I guess that's the surprise when I published it, that it seemed an unusual thing to others. But I've always operated like that, and I think everything about people interests me, and I have this kind of, I don't know, just like deep affection. I know it's not very fashionable, but I kind of, I like people for the most part.
Are those characters at all in your consciousness anymore?
In Willesden, I live among them. I walk down the street and I think, oh, there's an Alsana, there's Samad, I see them all the time. So that they seem almost like real people to me.
But do you name them that in your brain? You actually do say,
no,
oh.
I'm just aware of kind of living in that world. I don't know. My characters, maybe one character in each book stays with me strongly. Like I guess in White Teeth it might be Samad, and on Beauty it's definitely Kiki. It might just be the person who's most well created is the one that you feel fondness for because they seem most real.
Yeah. And you spent the most time with them. Yeah.
And you've spent most time with them. I like the idea of them all kind of existing independently from me. That seems like a wonderful thought, if it were true, if they kind of exist in the world somehow. But I don't know.
Where's your creative energy focused right now?
I think for the very first time in my life, I may have run out of that. We'll see. But, up from, the earliest age, I've always known exactly what I was writing, what was coming next, et cetera, without a moment's doubt. And now, if I'm really honest, I have a lot of doubt. I don't know what is next for me. I finished a book of essays which comes out in October, but because I've never had a very professional outlook when it comes to writing, I've only ever written because I felt I had to or felt compelled to and wanted to. I don't know how writing will be if I don't have that feeling, but maybe it will pass. Maybe it's just something to do with midlife.
As a person who is also sharing that experience of midlife, I think that's a normal thing.
It's hard. It's a hard moment, you're not kind of driven on in the same way, but at the same time, whatever that retraction is of your, great big shining personality. New things can come into that space.
Yeah.
Like I find myself just enormously moved by people. Like I always was, but now it's really almost overwhelming. Everybody seems to me so precious.
Precious. I knew you were going to say that word. That's how I feel too. Little tiny moments. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we're going to go on. 1, 2, or 3?
Go for 1 again.
1. What emotion do you understand better than all the others?
Gosh. Regret. I think that's the one I know very well. Yeah. I think people's lives are so profoundly shot through with regret. And they don't talk about it very often, particularly in America. It's like a failure.
It's like a 4-letter word. And when people bring up the ideal of regret, you don't admit it because it's made you who you are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I'm always hearing people on television saying, no regrets. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that for
wow,
1 second.
Dude, I am so sorry. I am so filled with regret. It must be amazing never to feel sorry.
Right.
So, regret is something that I really feel, if only for the simple and selfish fact that you get one life, and I'm so hungry for life that I could live it like 10 times. And once it's a tough deal.
It's the bummer about time that it's going to bound.
Yeah. It's cool. Like once I realized it, like I've taken steps, I do other things now. I'm out in my community. I'm volunteering. I'm like engaged. And it feels so much better than sitting at a desk, just writing.
Well, it's also lonely, I imagine. Like just what that work is.
It is a little bit lonely. Like during COVID, when everybody was freaking out, I took it kind of personally because it's like, wait, so the thing you hate is my life?
My life, right.
you hate my life, but I've been living my life for 30 years. And to you, it's the worst thing imaginable.
To be sequestered at home. Because
I literally do that every day. So I did take it a little bit personally, but it was a wake-up call. I was like, you should try doing something else. So since then, really, I've been really trying to be in the world and also just recognize the emergency is over. I felt myself to be under a permanent emergency called I have to write. I have to make this thing clear. Sometimes it was about, when I was a kid, it was like, I'm Black in this country. I want to explain to you what this is like, what this feeling is like, what it means. Sometimes it was personal, sometimes it was political. And I think I realized since COVID that it's not an emergency anymore. If I never wrote again, nobody would care. So anything I write from now on is gravy. It'd be great and it'd be interesting and fine, but it's not an emergency. There's time in life to consider what else might be done with the time of my life.
I mean, I know people would be disappointed. Many people would be disappointed if you didn't.
That's nice. I don't think so, but it's nice of you to say.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next cards. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3. What feels unreachable to you?
At the moment, justice. I don't want to be in political despair, but that's all I can say. I've never had the feeling so acutely of being so far from what I would call just societies.
I'm just sitting in that answer.
I'm sorry, it's a depressing answer. It's a depressing edition of your interview, but it's painful. And as writers, you always have this feeling of or fear of impotence. Like what is it you're doing anyway? For me, the thing that I've tried to insist on since I started writing and I'm trying to hold on to is this sense of the sacred nature of every single human being. I personally don't believe that you can do politics in a just way without that comprehension.
Do you feel like you want to write about it?
I mean, I think in the book of essays I've just written, it's really all about that. It's just trying to rescue people from this flattening of themselves, to restore them to their humanity. Because I think you have to have a concept of the human to do politics well. I'm not a good political person. I know I don't have a political mind. I'm not good at political analysis. What I'm thinking of is how can I give people who are much better at that than me a concept of the human that they can work with, that will undergird their work. And, the thing which won't work is deciding that half the people are just trash people. They're just trash people. So there's nothing can be done about these trash people. That is not a just idea. It's not a socialist idea. It's not a Christian idea. It's not useful. So I'm trying to find a way to give people a concept of the human that is useful, that has utility.
This message comes from Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easy to manage your payments all in one place with Squarespace Payments. Onboarding is fast and simple. Get started in just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. Plus, give your customers more ways to pay with popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, and Afterpay. Head to squarespace.com/wildcard for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Okay, beliefs. 1, 2, or 3.
Oh boy. Okay, 3.
When do you think about your smallness in the universe?
I cannot exaggerate how small I feel in the universe. I don't know how to.
You're like, a better question is, when do I think about my bigness in the universe?
Yeah, that would be more. I feel it all the time. Once you understand, and once you know the truth that your birth is a kind of a miracle, but also an accident, the possibilities of it not happening are so large. The possibilities of it happening in a different way. My father was at the Normandy landings, and he didn't put his head up as the tank came to the beach, but the guy behind him did and was shot dead immediately. So there's one example of a contingency. I didn't have to be here, and my mother might never have come from Jamaica, and they might never have met, and so those things are always in my mind, and they always keep me in the sense of a universe far larger than me.
Is that unsettling for you, or it's?
No,
it is what it is.
I like it that way.
Yeah.
I like it that way. I like to, I have this kind of, writers have a kind of revenge, because when you're at the desk, you're there and the universe is suddenly small and it's under your hand. And so it's a strange kind of reverse of that sense of control. But yeah, when I'm not writing, I quite, like some of the emotions I enjoy, like I love to be lost in a massive crowd. I love carnival. I love, that moment when a crowd seems almost frightening. I that's what I like. I like to be with 100,000 people listening to a band and everyone goes kind of crazy, or I like that. And I recognize that as a weird instinct, but I've always liked that.
Okay. 3 new cards. 1, 2, or 3?
2.
Is time a positive or negative force in your life?
I mean, time, if anyone who's ever read me knows that this is my number one topic. Time, it's a complete obsession, and I take it personally.
Time?
But yes, but also I know that a world without limits would be an intolerable world. I'm always amazed at these longevity tech bros on the other side of your country trying to live forever. For what? Like, they don't seem to know why they want to live forever. It's just a pure principle. It's wild. That concept is wild. So I find it really, like, it's hard getting older. It's really, really hard, and melancholy.
Tell me why.
Because I loved being young. And I'm really going to miss it.
Yeah, but I get it. But I was also, I don't know, it sounds like a trope, a cliche, but I was so dumb.
Yeah, I know, but you don't know, and that's a great blessing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get over it. Like, when I meet women, particularly in their later 50s and their 60s, there's a lot of joy returns. But I think the moment of transition is melancholy, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt there wasn't enough time. But you can't beat it. and it has to be accepted. And all of those traditions from, the Buddhists to various indigenous faiths, to the Unitarians, anyone who understands that time is here not to be battled but to be accepted, is my hero. But, I did grow up in the Anglo-American world where time is to be defeated by superheroes in capes. You remember that image I always remember of Christopher Reeve going around the world as fast as possible.
Yes,
so
yes.
Yeah. That is the archetypal image of my generation. Like, yeah, we can beat this. Or Back to the Future. Don't worry, we got this. We can redo it.
If not through fantasy, like a time machine, beat it through productivity. That's another way to
productivity or interventions or treatment. It's none of that's going to work. So my thing is to try and reach acceptance, but without pretending that it's easy. Because I don't think it's easy. It is easy. And then all these things, like even the space to sit around feeling melancholy about the passing of time is what so many women that I know anyway don't have. So I'm aware of it even as a kind of indulgence. But for me personally, I would like to accept time and also love it. I would like to love being an old woman and hopefully a wise old woman, like in a fairy story. I want to be that person.
But also, you mentioned earlier intentionally trying to slow down, and I have most definitely made changes in my life to try to do that, and I do think it helps. It gives me some ownership over it, and I just am intentionally trying to literally walk slower through the world. And
I mean, that's the thing. When I left New York, for the first few weeks in London, I was still walking like a New Yorker, and people would be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Right, just chill.
As you've probably noticed, I'm prone to melancholy. And in New York, I didn't even have time to be melancholic. It just kicked my ass for 15 years every single day, and I got a lot done. But life is not just about getting things done. And I really have so much admiration for this new generation, Z, I guess we're calling them, who are just like, nope, taking a holiday, not coming to work. It's like mass resistance. It reminds me of, the great argument Fanon makes, the psychologist and revolutionary from Martinique. He makes about the quote unquote natives in a colonial situation. The reason they move slow is because it's resistance. They're like, nope,
that's right.
We're not going to do anything today. And I come from the burning heart of that resistance, Jamaica, where there's a wonderful police station in Jamaica called Wait a Bit. That's the principle of Jamaican life. It's resistance says we're not moving today, and I really admire resistance of that form, like the non-productive. No, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to look at the sky. Life is for living. Life is for living. It's not just for endless productivity and working. And I have loved writing these books, but there's more to life than that.
Yeah. Last one. 1, 2, or 3?
1.
What is your best defense against despair?
Oh, there's a few. A dry martini with a lemon twist is always a good thing. Often with a crème brûlée.
Oh, that's
together.
Good.
It's a perfect combination. All music. Particularly music of Black origin, which is almost all music in the 21st century. So all music, dancing, drugs. Are we allowed to say drugs on the radio?
Yeah.
Joy, all pleasure. Talking to people. I love to talk to people. Comedy. Kids. Kids are that. It's challenging, but they are also they're just full of the future.
May I ask how old your kids are?
15 and 11. And they help. It's hard. Like, I think one of the great antidotes to despair is being involved. Like when I meet, like I work sometimes with environmental activists, and I don't find them to be despairing. I find them like energized and because they're involved. So that definitely must be one solution. And it's so funny to me when I think back on when I was young, when I was a teenager, so I'm talking about the teenager I really don't admire. If you'd asked her, why do people do that kind of work? She'd have rolled her eyes and said, oh, they're just trying to make themselves feel good. And now I'm like, yes, they're trying to make themselves feel good. Yes, you're correct.
That's right.
That's right. That's good.
And if it has an ancillary benefit of helping someone else, then great.
I was such a fool. When I look back on my teenage self, I'm just like, you have no clue what this life is for and about. But she was, a reader, and I thank her for that. Yeah.
We end the show the same way every time. You pick one moment from your past that you would not change anything about, but you would like to linger in that moment a little longer. What moment do you choose?
Ugh, I can't believe I'm going to say this. But it's true, I think. When I fell in love with my husband, he'd been my friend for a very long time, and so I wasn't expecting that to happen. But we were in Poland because he was working in Warsaw, and I don't know if anyone's if you ever fall in love with a friend, it's a very, it's a nice Harry Met Sally type thing to happen to a person. But the day that it happened, we were on a train. I remember kind of sitting in the carriage, and I put my feet up on him, and he was just kind of holding my feet. And I remember that as a very happy day. Of course, now I've been married so long, it's annoying to say it. And please, you never want to say anything to please your other half. But
we won't tell him that you said it. But
that I do remember that being, a moment, a kind of blissful moment of happiness. I think it was a moment of extreme happiness. Yeah.
Was this before any declaration of love or affection?
No, it was just after. It was just like the morning after. And it was just such a surreal thing to have happened. It was a very blissful thing, and I remember it fondly. I think anyone answering that question would think of a moment of love, if they were honest. Love is the joy and the reason. It doesn't have to be romantic, but it's always love.
Zadie Smith, the author of many books, including White Teeth, which is marking its 25th anniversary. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you.